Good evening, I'm Katerina Georgieva. Here's what's making news right now.
We felt that this was in the best interest of everyone at the table, including the residents.
I just felt, I have definitely, committed, my time, and I believe certainly it's an opportunity for others to step forward.
Being Indigenous is just being resilient. So, for a really long time, people were scared to be Indigenous or scared to tell people that they're Indigenous. So for me, it's really important to, put it on display and to be proud of it.
It's day 2 of a coroner's inquest into the death of an Indigenous inmate at Windsor's Southwest Detention Center. 30-year-old Delilah Blair died by suicide while inside the facility, and today emotional testimony from Blair's mother. And a warning to viewers that this report contains some distressing details. The CBC's Jason Vio joins us now. He's been covering the inquest for us. Jason, what more do we know?
Well, within the last 45 minutes, Delilah Blair's mother was testifying, and she broke down in tears talking about seeing her daughter's body and holding her for the last time. A 10-minute recess was called, and jurors could be seen leaving the room with tears in their eyes. We were learning more about Selena McIntyre's past as well as who Blair was. She remembers her daughter as being energetic and a beautiful woman. She loved crafts and drawing, and that was evident even in her jail cell. The jury saw photos of carved bars of soap. McIntyre said she was always there to save her daughter, protect her, but as Blair's drug problems got worse, that became more difficult. She said Blair never gave up looking for treatment and wanted to one day be a mom to her 4 kids.
Jason, there was also testimony from a correctional officer. What did we hear?
Well, we heard from Jesse Cope. He's been a correctional officer there for 15 years, and Cope's shift ended 1 hour before Blair being discovered in her cell on May 21st, 2017. Now, he remembers her mostly as being happy, joking around, laughing and smiling a lot, but at times he says she was very unstable and upset. Now, we did have security camera footage that was played during the inquest, and she could be seen skipping around inside the women's mental health unit, and this was 36 minutes before an officer found her with no vital signs in her cell. A bed sheet was used in Blair's death by suicide, ripped and knotted several times. Cope testified it would be very difficult to see any of that in advance unless officers go into inmates' cells every security check they do. At the time, those security checks were being conducted twice every hour. He says death by suicide in jail using a bed sheet would be difficult, if not impossible, to prevent.
What else did we learn from this correctional officer about her behavior leading up to her death?
Well, we now know she filled out several inmate request forms in the days and weeks before she died. At the end of April, she asked for mood stabilizers because, in her words, she was going crazy. Twice in May, she asked to phone her mom. And here's one of those requests that was written out. And this is from that form that was shown to the jury today. Can I please phone my mother because I need someone to talk to? Please and thank you. It's unclear if she was ever able to speak to her mom while in jail because the forms weren't filled out correctly. But we did learn today, her mom said the first time she even knew Blair was in jail was the phone call to say she had passed away. Now, Cope testified that correctional officers try to help facilitate phone calls in a timely manner, even if they aren't urgent. Cope also said phone privileges can be taken away if someone is unstable. He noted Blair as being unstable several times on inmate observation sheets. It wasn't clear, though, if and when she had those phone privileges in the month of May. And the day before Blair died, she filled out an inmate request form asking the chaplain for Bible studies. Now, the inquest continues tomorrow, where we may hear more from Selena McIntyre.
Thanks for this, Jason. CBC's Jason Vio live in studio tonight. And if you or someone you know is in need of mental health support, you can reach out to the Canadian Association for Suicide Prevention. You can reach them at 1-833-456-4566, or you can text 45645. In the ongoing fight for dark skies, Leamington Council has passed a new bylaw to crack down on greenhouse lights. CBC's Jennifer LaGrassa breaks down what it entails.
For years, this has been Leamington's night sky. The colorful blasts of light come from hundreds of greenhouses. But Leamington Council has been pushing to regulate the industry and bring back a dark sky. Despite approving a greenhouse light abatement bylaw in 2020, councillors found themselves back at the drawing board last week. Greenhouse growers appealed the old bylaw, which wanted lights completely off or curtains fully closed during a portion of the night.
To completely close them, as the bylaw originally stated, would have literally cooked the tops of those plants within hours. Heat and humidity, you need to allow that to escape.
The new bylaw requires greenhouses to have blackout curtains ordered or purchased by October 1st of this year and have them installed by October next year. It also details the times when curtains must be closed. Between 5 in the evening and 8 in the morning, side curtains must be completely shut. Ceiling curtains must be fully closed between 10 in the evening and 2 in the morning. For any other time, a 10% gap is allowed in the ceiling curtains.
Not everybody is thrilled with it, but by and large, my members feel that it was the best situation. Is it perfect? No, of course not, but nothing is.
We feel that this reduces the amount of light that is being emitted, and yet is still a balance between what the industry needs.
Residents that are living in those areas have complained about this in recent years for a while. Do you think that you're giving the farmers and the greenhouses too much time?
Had COVID not happened, there would not be that year's time, because the supply chain, that wouldn't be a valid reason. But because of what's happened globally, we have to be realistic. That's all that is just being realistic, whether we like it or not.
McDonald says infractions to the bylaw could cost growers $750. Bylaw officers and drones will be used to enforce the new rules. Jennifer LaGrassa, CBC News, Windsor.
Kingsville's mayor is stepping down after nearly 2 decades. Nelson Santos was first elected mayor 19 years ago and has served on council much longer, since 1997. He says leading through the pandemic helped him come to his decision to resign.
Also recognizing that it came at a time when the community needed me most as a leader, and tried to go through the pandemic and collectively, walk, crawl, climb, scream, kick, go as strong as we could to represent our community and work towards recovery. And that certainly took a significant amount of energy and time. And I know it impacted my family time, through this, the last couple of years. But more importantly, it's brought together the need and awareness of it's time for a change. And I'm still young enough to pursue, my third career.
Santos's departure comes just 4 months before municipal elections are held across Ontario. He will be stepping down effective next month. Celebrations and ceremonies are happening across the country to mark National Indigenous Peoples Day. Here in Windsor, many gathered at Micmac Park. The organizers said it's a social event many Indigenous people have marked on their calendars.
We're glad to be back in the swing of things. It's such a social event on the calendar. It's where everybody can get reconnected, see people they haven't seen in maybe a while, and we can introduce or reintroduce ourselves to the Windsor community, and Windsor community can come and introduce themselves to us as well.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau attended an event in Ottawa to mark the day. He said it's important for everyone to remember and reflect on the terrible historic wrongs that have been inflicted on Indigenous peoples. But it's also important to celebrate their strength and resilience.
This is the thing that amazes me constantly. When you look at the layers of trauma and of damage done by Canada, that Indigenous peoples continue to reach out with open hands and open hearts and say, let's build a better country and a better future together.
In a statement released earlier, Trudeau said real progress had been made with First Nations, Inuit, and Métis communities across the country this year by working together to advance priorities, but also acknowledged that there is still work to be done to right the wrongs of the past. For National Indigenous History Month, we've been sharing teachings with you from a local elder. Teresa Sims is the City of Windsor's Indigenous storyteller. She's also a community leader and knowledge keeper. And today she shares the tale of Nana Bojo and the birch tree and how it became an important medicine and a preserver of food.
Nana Bojo, he always liked to eat. He's kind of a trickster. He's a part human, but also the west wind was his father. So he used to like to do little tricks, and he always liked to take care of his grandmother. And he wanted to go fishing, but he wanted to catch the biggest fish he could find. So I need some really nice feathers for my bow and the arrows, especially my arrows, because they need new feathers. Where are the best feathers? Grandmother, would you know? Well, the thunderbirds have beautiful feathers, but they live way up in the mountain. And they have the thunder and the lightning that protects us. So I wouldn't go there. Well, you don't tell Nana Bonjour not to do something. He says, why? And he does it. So he decided to go up and find the thunderbirds. So what he did, he changed himself into a rabbit. And he was bouncing around, and the thunderbird saw him. That's good food for my children. So he went down and he went to catch the rabbit, and he said, oh, don't hurt me. I could be a toy, I could be a friend, I can entertain your children. That's an interesting idea. Okay, I'll take you up to my nest and see if the children like you. So he took him up to the thunderbird's nest, and his children were around. And he was playing with them, and they were pecking at him, and he was trying to be nice. I have to go and get some more food for my children then, if you're going to be playing with him. So when the thunderbird left, Nana Bonjour turned back into a human. And all the little chicklings, all the little beings started screeching, and he started pulling off their feathers. And he gathered their feathers, and since he's more than human, he has a lot of strength. He jumped out of the nest and ran away, and the thunderbird heard his little ones screeching, came back and saw they were naked. And he went after Nana Bonjour, and Nana Bonjour saw a birch tree. It was laying on its side. So he crawled into that birch tree, and the thunderbird shot down lightning bolts, and they bounced off the birch tree. He said, okay, the birch has decided to protect you. From now on, the birch tree will protect you and protect your food too. So now, if you see a little V on the birch, like that little V there, that's a thunderbird marking. So that's the story about the birch and how it became one of our medicines to help preserve our food.
Paddlers from around the world are arriving in Whitehorse this week for the annual Yukon River Quest. They'll spend 3 days paddling the 700 kilometers to Dawson City. This year, some of the participants will be marking a tragic part of the legacy of the famous Gold Rush route, because the river was also used to transport children to residential schools across the territory. And for one team, their quest is meant to honor the children who never went home. CBC's Anna Demera has the story.
Pauline Frost is preparing for a grueling paddle down the same river her ancestors did.
Well, the River Quest is not for the faint of heart. You go places in your very internal spiritual place and think about those things. You think about your ancestors and what they've had to endure.
They took this journey from their homes in the Arctic to residential school, hundreds of kilometers away.
Bringing the children away from the home, and they're fighting, and the fighting upstream, not knowing what's going to happen. That one's the long one, Alice. Yeah, I know. You going to try?
Pauline is one of 4 First Nations women who are paddling for one purpose: to show Canadians that the legacy of residential schools is all around them.
So I see the river as, good and bad in that sense, but I also see it as a segue to healing, right? And that's part of the journey down, is just letting go of some of that and giving our story back to the water.
I'm not just racing for myself, I'm racing for, Indigenous children everywhere.
It's important for Pauline to have her daughter, the next generation, on the journey with her.
And every child matters is like a demand for the people to see us. It felt like nobody really acknowledged our struggles or the abuse or the people that went missing in residential schools before they found the body in Kamloops.
faster than we normally are from just with the high water. And
Once their journey is over, Frost says the hard work will continue.
keep this alive for people, and that it's not done. We're not done our work yet.
And she says that until that work is done, she won't be able to rest easy. Anna Demarez, CBC News, Whitehorse.
A live look outside there. The air, it is thick today. That heat warning continues. Hope you're able to stay cool and stay hydrated. Colette will be here after the break with more. Stay with us. Welcome back. Popsicles come in all sorts of flavors, but a Leamington company is launching a unique flavor tied very much to the region's tomato roots. As our video producer Darren DiCarlo found out, it has some people licking their lips, others not so much.
Ketchup flavored popsicles, what do you think?
It sounds weird, but I'd give it a try.
Yeah. What do you think it would taste like?
Maybe the ketchup chips.
Yeah.
Maybe just ketchup. Like, I've drank ketchup before, so it might taste similar.
I think that's pretty neat. I mean, they add a different aspect on Leamington, and it's a different tourist attraction, right? Windsor's famous for its pizza. Now Leamington got the ketchup popsicle, so there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, same here. I don't really like sweet and salty. I mean, ketchup is something I would put on hot dogs or like burgers or something like that. And then popsicles, I think, is like strawberry or like, banana or something like that.
People like chips, ketchup chips, so why not? And tomato, I love tomato, so sure.
I think it's a little bit ridiculous.
Why?
I like ketchup. I don't think it's a good idea to have it in a popsicle. Like, maybe if it was a hamburger flavored popsicle with ketchup on it, but just a popsicle made of ketchup, I don't think that's a great idea.
I think so, because there's many families here with their kids. Yeah, I think it's a great idea. And it should catch on.
Yeah, I think it would, but I bet you'll get a lot of strange faces from the little ones.
It doesn't sound amazing to me, but I'd be willing to try anything once. So there you go. On to another very important question. What would you do if you found a bat in your home?
There you go, little fella.
One of our colleagues came across this little guy in her apartment staircase, and thankfully neighbors came to the little bat's rescue, and they were able to get him back outside. So you can see he's being walked over there to some bushes so that it could have some shelter. They affectionately named it Beatrix, and this is a really good time to bring in Colette Kennedy.
Look at Beatrix.
Right?
What
Colette,
a beauty.
you're an animal lover, you're an animal rescuer yourself. What advice do you have if folks come across something like this?
Well, and the thing is, Katerina, I've had a similar experience, and the thing I learned from that, when if you are trying to help a bat along on its way, maybe you don't want it inside your place.
Right, yep.
To just not set it somewhere outside, because they can't take off from the ground. They need to be at that distance of 2 to 3 feet to be able to drop and then fly. So high on a bush or tree or roof, that kind of thing. Or like a friend of mine did, you take it and throw it up into the air so that
there you go. That's good advice. I had no idea that was the case with bats, so that's good to know.
Yeah, well, I think Beatrix, nice that they took care of, I guess, her as they were looking after things, but probably happy to get it out of the indoors as well. Hey, indoors, probably where you want to be today, especially with some air conditioning, right? If you have that opportunity, we sure need it. When we're talking about the daytime highs here, and in fact, look at those daytime highs, and then even checking out our current temperature, we're still very close to it. Windsor at 34. That 35 is a roundup. We made it to 34.7, at least since records up to 2012. That would be a new record because it was 34.4. Now, Sarnia, 33, Chatham-Kent, 31. All right, let's get on to the Humidex values. London was at 40, Sarnia at 41, and 41 still for Windsor as well. So we know it's oppressive. The dew points, frankly, do get higher. They get stickier when we see them well into the low 20s. We already had that event just last week, but they're going to build a little bit into tomorrow and then be coming down because we've got a cold front on the way. So the heat warning is still in place. Still early tomorrow, certainly very hot. Air quality issues because of the increased level of ozone at the ground level. So just know about that too. We stayed dry through the overnight hours. Totally different story into eastern Ontario. And in fact, tomorrow they'll likely see things firing up again and then into Thursday even. But the timing here with the cold front going through means we could have a few pop-up showers or thunderstorms, but mostly I think they're going to be out over the lake or further eastward before things really get going. What's more important is the winds will change direction. It'll filter in that air that will be more comfortable. And as you get into that, it will be less and less sticky. But it's still going to be hot, so just be aware of that. Overnight tonight, not exactly sleeping weather, but better than the daytime highs from today. And then Thursday, this is what I mean. It may be a little drier in terms of the feel, but we still have some hot weather coming our way, and then the humidity will build again, Katerina.
Thanks so much for that, Colette.
You're welcome.
When we come back, how some First Nations are inviting people to explore Indigenous culture and history. Stay with us. A new survey on tourism shows there's a growing interest in learning about authentic Indigenous experiences. Now, some First Nations in Saskatchewan are hoping to harness that interest in exploring Indigenous culture and history and increase tourism all year round. Bonnie Allen has this report.
In northwestern Saskatchewan, Robert McCollum knows these waters, this land, and their history.
Nice day for a canoe.
Now he's training to be a certified guide for tourists. His home community of Waterhen Lake Cree Nation just purchased this eco-lodge inside Meadow Lake Provincial Park.
Being able to let other people see how you live, and maybe be able to even teach them something.
Indigenous tourism is growing. Eco-Lodge manager Jesse Morin has big plans to sell packages with trapping, fishing, canoeing, even sleeping in teepee lodges like this to be erected soon.
People are looking for something authentic. When you leave this place, you get to witness the wilderness of the boreal forest, but you also get a better understanding of who we are as people.
A recent survey of North American and European tourists found there is an appetite for Indigenous-led tourism, but only if it does not exploit the community and it does provide an authentic cultural experience. The problem, what one considers authentic is often based on stereotypes.
We're not the Peter Pan type style Indians, right? That image isn't who we are. But there are elements of our culture that we want to showcase, right? Our dancing.
What's authentic is evolving, says this tourism coordinator. An Indigenous tourism corridor around Saskatoon includes a casino and golf resort, a heritage park with bison, and now these glamping teepee lodges. And soon, guided tours explaining the history of residential schools.
So it's really, really dark truths that we are going to showcase and tell those stories. In spite of all of that, look at who we are now.
As for Robert McCollum, what he's offering is simple: a chance to connect with him and nature. Bonnie Allen, CBC News, Greg Lake, Saskatchewan.
That is it for CBC Windsor News. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great night.